Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. Happy 4th of July. I'm sorry in advance if you hear fireworks, can't really do anything about it. So, for how many of you was it difficult tonight to start recording your own speech? For how many of you was it difficult to put your phones down and do your homework? You'll forgive me if I assume that most of our class have probably started working on our assignment the last day, last few hours. Am I right? Well, in 2024, according to the UC Davis Mental Health Department, it stated that social media negatively impacts on our overall well-being, impacting and influencing depression, anxiety, and loneliness. It often happens in our everyday life with not only procrastination, but also how we feel and live our lives. You might be thinking that this topic is very much over-exaggerated and we all might be very tired of it. Trust me, I've been there too. But according to the National Center of Biotechnology Information, a survey that stated that out of 563 adults between the ages of 18 and 22 showed that the amount of time they spend on social media directly impacts and influences their dispositional anxiety. This means that even though you might be thinking that it doesn't directly affect you, it most probably does. I'm someone who have been directly influenced and affected by the use of social media. I have spent countless of days watching people's perfect lives, finding imperfections in my own, and I suddenly one day realized that I don't want to be doing that and I need to stop denying the undeniable. So I hope in my speech today, you guys will be able to recognize how social media negatively impacts our lives and decide what you want to do about it. I'd like to talk to you today about the effects of social media on kids through procrastination and cyberbullying, and about the misinformation we get from social media, and most importantly on its impacts on mental health. So let's begin on kids, procrastination and cyberbullying. According to the article called Impacts of Social Media on Students, published in 2024, it talks about how social media negatively impacts students in different ways, cyberbullying, academic performances of the students. According to that article, the use of social media directly impacts how kids go through their tasks. They procrastinate on doing their homework, they're procrastinating on studying tests, on doing their hobbies, or spending time with their families. Another reason why social media negatively impacts students would be the effect of cyberbullying of kids. According to the same text, almost half the students have ever experienced cyberbullying to some extent. Whether those were anonymous hateful comments or spreading rumors and misinformation about the kids, we all have experienced it to some extent, some more hurtful than others. My next point will be that misinformation that we get from social media, which I can say happens a lot, especially lately. I'm sure you've all have seen and noticed with the advanced in technologies, which should, in the ideal world, help us to gain more knowledge and help us to learn more about the world, we get more and more misinformed. So, have you seen those AI generated videos? Have you seen how real and silly and funny they can get? But also that sometimes even we, Gen Z, have doubts and might have difficulties on differentiating what the real video is, especially amongst the adults, because they might have more difficulties to see what the real video is and which one is the AI generated. According to Oxford Academic Journal article, social media has huge significance in the contribution of spreading misinformation through other platforms, extending it to a global reach. People put their trust in their favorite influencers, trust in them for political beliefs, for any beliefs, and they spread that information to other platforms, reaching out to more and more people to believe in the same misinformation, to the same fake news. So now that we talked about the social media effects on kids, students, adults through cyberbullying, procrastination, and misinformation, let's talk about the worst of them all, the effects on mental health, which I believe is the worst of them all. So, according to National Center for Biotechnology Information and its studies, social media triggers anxiety amongst its users. Because of how much we spend time on social media, we become more and more socially anxious with interacting people in real life. It causes us to become more socially anxious when interacting with people because we're not used to it, because we're used to comments and liking and texting through our phones. Another article, Harvard Magazine, states that according to their studies, people who have much use of social media, whether it is a Facebook or TikTok, they are more likely to trigger anxiety and depression symptoms, which they might have. People who use social media on a daily basis are statistically more likely to have depression, and it causes the depression symptoms to worsen over time. Well, now that we talked about how my main points of how it affects on us and on our life, let's come to a conclusion together. Today we talked about how social media influences kids to procrastinate, how it affects cyberbullying amongst children, and not only, and how it affects on misinformation we get from all around the world, and how we might feel more anxious and depressed after scrolling through our phones. And of course the overall negative impact on social media. I sincerely hope that after this speech you all see and recognize the issues it might bring up and will choose to spend your times more wisely and with more positive and productive outcomes. I think that we humans created a tool that was supposed to be very helpful and was supposed to impact our lives in a positive way, but that tool had led the way of how we live our lives, and I hope that one day we will be able to change that, preferably starting today, starting with our own lives. So yes, you guys, thank you so much.